Hello and welcome to the Futures Lab. So this week I want to add in an effect that makes it look like we are walking down a dark corridor with our lightsaber, and in the future we can even create some more game mechanics. Maybe someone is shooting blaster bolts at us that we have to deflect. Maybe we might even encounter some stormtroopers in this dark corridor. But for now, let's head to our code and make sure we get these walls working. Now the first thing that I'm going to do is draw in a different backdrop to give the illusions of a floor and a ceiling. So click here on Stage, then click on Backdrops in the top left corner, go to the bottom left corner and then hover over where it says Paint and click. Now to make this floor and ceiling effect, we need to use the Rectangle tool, then select the fill and choose this gradient from up to down. Now you can choose whatever colors that you like. I'm going to make this sort of dark and mysterious. So my first color is going to be black and the other color is going to be a gray. Then have a look at your color up here. If this is the right way around, if the top and bottom colors are correct, then that's fine. But if you want to swap them, don't forget you can always click this button here. Then let's draw a nice big rectangle and make sure that the top of your rectangle goes right through this crosshairs in the middle of the screen. Once you've drawn your rectangle, and you could notice that I've gone outside the edges, which is fine because we only see what's inside this box in the middle, we need to copy this rectangle. To do that, make sure you've got the rectangle selected by clicking on this tool and then clicking on the rectangle. Then you can press copy and then paste, or on your keyboard you just go Control-C, Control-V. As you can see, we've now got this additional rectangle. Drag that up and put it right on top of the other one. Then go to Fill and click the Swap button. Now click somewhere here and we should have this cool darkness effect. Now it's time to make our wall sprite. So hover in the bottom right corner and then click on Paint a new sprite. Let's call this sprite Wall. Then we need to get out this rectangle tool right here and draw a very narrow and tall rectangle. Now you can actually see how big your rectangle by looking at these numbers here in your costume 1. Mine is about 20 pixels wide and about 130 pixels tall. So if you're not sure how big to make your rectangle, try to make yours about that size. Then we need to click on this select tool here. Then you can grab your rectangle and make sure that that blue cross in the middle goes inside the crosshairs in the center of your drawing area. Now that we've centered our wall, we need to adjust some of these corners. Click on this tool here, and this will actually allow us to change the points of the 4 points of our rectangle. Click on this point here. Now you can drag it down with the mouse, but I'm actually going to press down on the keyboard. Yep, I like how that looks. And then I'm going to do the same with this one, but moving it up this time. Now this doesn't need to be perfect. We are going to come back and tidy it up later once we've finished with our code. So click on the top left corner where it says code. So this is only one very narrow section of wall. We need to find a way to duplicate this so that it fills out the rest of the wall like we see here. Now we could make a bunch of additional sprites to do that, but that seems really messy and annoying. So instead we are going to use clones. Go to Events, get out a When Green Flag Clicked, get out a Forever Loop from Control. Let's zoom in so we can see this a bit better. Then let's put in a Wait 1 seconds, and then in Control, get out a Create Clone of Myself. Now click the green flag again, and it might look like nothing's happening, but we are making a bunch of clones of our wall. However, these clones aren't going anywhere interesting, so let's fix that. Get out When I Start as Clone, then get out Repeat Until, and delete this clone. We want these walls to move towards the edges of the screen, and once they touch the edge of the screen, they're going to delete themselves. So go to Sensing, and look at the top where we've got Touching Mouse Pointer. Drag that out and put that right after the Repeat Until. Click on where it says Mouse Pointer and select Edge. This is the edge of the screen, so if any of the clones ever touch the edge of the screen, they will disappear, delete themselves. Now I need these wall sections to move towards the edge of the screen, and we could change X in order to make them move sideways, but we're actually going to use a move block instead, and the reason why will become more clear later. Go to Motion and get out Move 10 steps, then press the green flag. Okay, well those walls are moving way too fast, so let's change 10 steps into 1 step. Okay, that's much better indeed. As you can see, they also delete themselves when they get to the edge of the screen, but this still looks wrong because the wall panels aren't getting larger. Now these wall panels are moving to the right, which means they're changing their X position, so we can actually change the size of them depending on what their current X position is. Now in order to make this code work correctly, we need to make sure that this wall is in a specific place. So let's go to the when green flag clicked and get out a go to X and Y. And for now, let's just change this X to be 80 and this Y to be 0 to make sure that it's in the middle of the screen in terms of up and down, but it's on the right side of the screen, but still quite close to the center in terms of left and right. Let's press go and see where the starting position is. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now the interesting bit. Let's go to looks and get out a set size to 100% and put it underneath our repeat until. Now let's go back to motion and look down until you can find this little round X position. Drag that out and put that inside our set size too. There we go, that's much better. Now they're getting much larger the closer they get to the edge. It really gives us this illusion that they're getting closer to us. However, the original wall is still there, so let's hide that because it's kind of spoiling the illusion because it's not moving. Let's go to looks and get out a hide, and let's put it underneath when green flag clicked and click the green flag again. But we have a problem. We've hidden the original wall, which means all of the clones are also hidden. But there's an easy way to solve this. Get out a show block and put it underneath when I start as clone, and all the clones should now start appearing. Now let's make a cool effect where the further walls look like they're fading in out of the shadows. Let's get out a set color effect and put it right underneath when I start as clone. But click on color and change it to the ghost effect. Now a ghost effect of 100 means something is entirely invisible. So type in 100. As you can see, our walls are now completely invisible. We want to slowly make them visible again. So let's get out a change color effect, but put it underneath our repeat until. Change color into ghost, and we only want to change it by -1 to take away the ghost effect. And now these further panels here should be slowly fading in, whereas the ones closer to us are easier to see. Now this isn't fading in fast enough for me. I want to take away the ghost effect faster, so let's change this -1 into a -2. Okay, that's looking better already. Now let's put a ghost effect on the end as well, because these panels here disappear very suddenly and it spoils the illusion a bit. So let's get out a repeat 10, put it on the bottom just before delete this clone, and let's change the ghost effect by 10. Okay, that looks much better there. Excellent. So now we need to find a way to make these wall panels appear not just on the right, but also on the left. And this is why we've been using a move steps instead of a change X. If we put a change X by 1 here, they would always move right, meaning that when we made our panels over here, they would move right as well. But if we can find a way to take our wall panels and point them to the left instead, that is the direction in which they will move. So now we need to make 2 clones of the walls, one pointing left and one pointing right. Go to Control and get out a repeat 10. We want to make sure this repeat 10 goes around the create clone of myself, but we want it to be a repeat 2 instead of repeat 10. Then we need to go to motion and get out a turn 15 degrees. But we want this to be turn 180 degrees instead, which is a complete flip from one side to the other. Now, the starting point for these walls on the right side of the screen is x equals 80. So if we want this to be nice and symmetrical, we need the starting point for the walls on the left side of the screen to be x minus 80. So this could mean that we set the x to minus 80 and then we set it back to 80 each time we make our two clones on each side of the screen, or we can just move forward the difference between 80 and minus 80, which is 160 pixels for our wall sprite to move from here to here. So move this turn 180 degrees here and then get out a move 160 steps. Now, before we do anything else, because we're turning our wall, we need to make sure that we set the direction of the wall at the beginning of the game. So pull out a point in direction 90 and put it right underneath when green flag clicked. Now, you've probably already noticed, but these walls are not growing. And if you think about it, that actually makes sense. Now remember, the size of our wall is being controlled by whatever x position the wall is currently at. X is 0 right in the middle of the screen, and then it becomes a number that's higher and higher. These walls are starting at about 80% size, and then they get larger and larger and larger. However, on the left side of the screen, these numbers are minus numbers. They are below 0 and they never get larger. So if we want these walls to get larger, we need to find a way to turn these minus numbers into positive numbers. As it so happens, there's actually a really simple way to do that. Go to Operators and get out ABS of. Put it here for now. Now ABS stands for absolute value, meaning that whatever you put in here, it will turn into a positive number. If you put a positive number in there, like 80, it will stay as 80. But if you put a negative number in there, like minus 100, it will turn that into 100. So let's get out this X position, put it into our ABS of, and then drag the whole thing back into set size. There we go, that looks so much better. However, you might have noticed that these walls don't look exactly the same. Have you figured out what the difference is? These walls are upside down, and that makes sense. We've turned them around so that they're facing in the opposite direction, but that also means that they're upside down. Thankfully, Scratch has a way of fixing this. Go to Motion and look for Set Rotation Style Left, Right, and put that right underneath when green flag clicked. Then press the green flag. There we go. Now they're nice and symmetrical. Now, one thing that we need to fix is that there are larger gaps at the beginning than there are here at the end. You can see that these actually overlap quite a lot by the end, but at the beginning there are these really large gaps. So this means that we need these panels here to be moving slower. If they move slower, then they'll catch up with each other and close the gap. But these ones need to move faster so that they're not overlapping quite so much, and they'll move further apart. But how are we going to do that? Well, have a bit of a think. What number starts off small in the center of the screen but becomes larger towards the edge of the screen? It's our X position. The panels start at X position 80 here and minus 80 here, and at the edges of the screen they go up to about X equals 240 or minus 240. Now again, the minus numbers would mess up the code that we're about to write if we didn't already know how to flip them back into positive numbers. So let's look for our trusty ABS of X position. Let's duplicate that. Now if we put that straight away into the move steps, all of these are going to move far too fast. As you can see, they just move so quickly we don't even see them move. We need to slow them down. So let's get out a divide by operator. Let's take our ABS of X position and put it into the first socket of our divide by operator. And let's have a bit of a think. Well, let's try dividing by 200. And let's move that in there to our move. Okay, let's see what effect that has. Oh, look at that. The gaps are closing very nicely, and it looks a lot more even when it gets closer to us as well. Now, this is actually a bit slow for my taste. I want this to be a little bit faster. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this wait 1 second and make this a shorter time. I'm going to change wait 1 into wait 0.75 seconds. Okay, now as you can see, that makes all these panels a lot closer together, which means I can speed them up a little bit. Now, in order to speed them up, all we need to do is change this number by making it lower. Let's try 150 and see how fast that is. Okay, that's pretty good, and it's a bit faster as well. There's still a little bit of overlap that I don't like, so let's try again 140 maybe. Now, the number that you put in here may be different from my number, especially if your walls are a slightly different size to mine. But once you're happy and you can try some different numbers, let's tidy up these panels that disappear a little too soon. Now, up till now, we've been using this repeat until touching edge, and then we ghost and then delete our wall clones. However, we can do something a bit more sophisticated. These sprites can go a little bit off the edge of the screen. The problem is, we don't usually know how far they can go off before Scratch stops them from going any further. Let's figure out how far these walls can really go. Go to Motion and get out a move 10 steps, then put it underneath your repeat 10. As you can see, they're now charging towards the edge of the screen, but they can't quite get entirely off the edge. Now we need to figure out what is their final X position coordinate. So look down until you find this X position and drag that out. Go to Looks and look for a Say Hello block and just put it here. Then put the X position into the Say Hello. Get rid of this delete clone and put a Say X position right here. Okay, I'm getting 248. You might have a slightly different number, but make a note of that number. Okay, get rid of this Say X position, put the delete this clone back, and get rid of this move 10 steps. We don't need those anymore. Now go to Operators and look for this operator here. It's 6 from the top, and it is called the more than operator. It's a little arrow pointing towards the right. We can have these walls delete themselves once they get past a certain X position. So let's say they get to 248, or to be safe, let's say more than 247. Now don't forget, on the left side, it's minus 248. But as always, our trusty ABS will be able to flip that back into a positive number. So if we copy this ABS of X position and put it right here, and then change this 50 into whatever this number is, but minus 1, so let's say 247 for me. So get rid of this touching edge and replace it with our ABS, and look at that, that's so much better. They're going much further than just the edge of the screen, and it looks so good. Hit the green flag again, and those speech bubbles will disappear. And I think now we should tidy up these walls and make them look a little bit less zigzaggy. Go to Costumes, then select this tool here, the Point tool, and you can adjust the points of your rectangle. And I'm going to use the up and down arrows to do that. Well, as you can see, that's looking a lot better on the top now. They're all much more in line. I'm going to do the same with the bottom here. Oh, that's looking so good. Now, another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this select tool to select the entire rectangle, and I'm going to get rid of this outline. Now I've got a little bit of a gap here, so I'm just going to make this a little bit wider, not by too much though. Now this is all optional, but I'm going to put a nice thick line up here using the line tool. I'm going to use a really pale grey. I'm going to put another line down the bottom as well. As always, feel free to use this tool to make it a bit easier, especially with the arrow keys on the keyboard, to adjust these a bit more carefully. Okay, Once you've arranged everything the way you like it, just do another quick double check in full screen. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that looks. I think that looks really cool. Now the moment of truth. Let's test our lightsaber. All right. Oh no. The lightsaber is going behind the walls. Now, the reason for this is that we are using the pen tool to draw the lightsaber graphic, and it draws it straight onto the backdrop layer, which means that any sprites that we add are always on top of it. And the only way to get around it is we need to take our walls and somehow draw them in the same way using the pen tool onto the backdrop layer. As it so happens, there is a very handy way of doing this. In the pen tool codes, we have something called stamp. Now what we're going to do is set up a new sprite that's going to control all the layers that we're going to make using the stamp and the pen tool. So go to the bottom right corner, click on Paint a New Sprite, and we're actually going to not paint anything here. We're going to leave it completely blank and invisible. We're going to name this sprite Draw. Let's head to the code and go to Events, get out a When Green Flag Clicked. Then to control, we need a forever loop. And this forever loop is going to control the order in which all of these sprites are doing their pen tool code or their stamping. Now, in order for this sprite to send out a message to all the other sprites, we're going to need to use broadcasts again. So look for Events and get out a broadcast, but we want to make a new broadcast and call this Draw Walls. Press OK. Then we need a new broadcast, and this one is going to be a new message called Draw Lightsaber. Press OK. And because this is going to control all of the drawing, we're also going to get out that erase all that we're used to seeing at the beginning of our pen code in our lightsaber. So go to Pen and get out erase all and put it right here. Now you should see your lightsaber disappear. Don't panic, that's fine. We're going to fix that now. Go to Lightsaber and look for the erase all in your forever loop here. Drag that and everything underneath it out of the forever loop. Then drag off the erase all. We don't need that. Then we need to go to Events and get out a When I Receive Draw Lightsaber. Now, it's possible we can get this glitch here. Can you see that white line at the base of the lightsaber? And it's even on when we have the lightsaber off. We can fix that nice and easily by going to Pen and getting out a pen up and just putting that right on the bottom of this code here. There we go. So now we have our lightsaber set up to draw the lightsaber when it receives this broadcast from the draw sprite. Now we need to set up this wall sprite to do something similar when it receives the draw walls broadcast. First of all, let's take out this show here. We can get rid of it, and we should find that all of the walls are now invisible. Now go to Events and get out a When I Receive Draw Walls. Go to the pen codes and get out a stamp. And sure enough, when we ignite our lightsaber, it should now be in front of the walls. You can actually control the different layers by moving these broadcasts around. If I move this broadcast draw lightsaber up here, now the lightsaber is underneath. And if I move it back, now it's better again. But we've got a weird little glitch. Can you see this wall here and this wall here? Well, that's actually because the original wall, the wall that's making all of the clones, is also receiving the broadcast. And we don't want it to make stamps of itself. So we need to figure out a way to tell the original wall that it is not one of the clones, which means it should not be stamping itself. Now to fix this problem, we're going to use a variable, but we're going to use a different type of variable to the variable that we use to control the length of our lightsaber. Let's go to Variables and click on Make a Variable. Now if you remember, a variable is like a box, and that box holds a piece of information, and the information in it changes. Now last time, when we made the length variable, we made it for all sprites. That means there's only one box, length, and inside it is a number, and if it's 300, the lightsaber is fully up, and if it's 0, the lightsaber is turned off. All of the sprites look to this one box, and there's only one length of the lightsaber. But this time, we are going to click for this sprite only. This means that every clone is going to have its own version of this variable, its own box, and what is in each of the boxes for each of the clones can be different. We're going to call this variable clone. Press OK. Then we're going to get out a set clone to 0, and we're going to set clone to no underneath when green flag clicked. So this means that the original sprite, this one that's glitching out here, its clone variable is no. But if we get out a new set clone and we put it underneath when I start as a clone and set it to yes, that means each of the clones that we make has its own clone variable that says yes instead. Now all we need to do is look for when I receive draw walls and put around that an if, then go to operators and get out an equals operator. That's this one here. Drag that out and put it in between the if and the then. Go to variables and get out this clone variable, put it inside the if, and then change this 50 into yes. Now, when each of the walls receives this broadcast, it will ask itself, is my clone variable set to yes? And if it is, I will stamp. But if it's not, I won't. And as you can see, our glitching out original wall sprite is gone because its clone variable is set to no. And that's all the time we have this week. I hope you've had fun. I hope you understand a little bit more about these two different types of variables now. Subscribe and ring the bell if you want to make sure you don't miss the next episode. Let me know in the comments what you would like me to do next on this project or any of my other projects, or if you need any help. And aside from that, stay awesome, be cool to each other, and take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time, ninjas.